Hello student. In today's segment we are going to learn NCERT class 7th history chapter 3 the Delhi Sultanate. Before two segment in the previous two segment what we have learned that over a period of time how many rulers used to came in India and they conquered the Delhi. And then what kind of changes they make in the Delhi? Like the we talk about the administrative system, we talk about the settlement of the humans, then we talk about the agriculture, then we talk about the trade, all the stuff over the period of time. If we talk about the Tughlaqs, the Khiljis, the Lodhis, then the and Iltutmish. In this period, whosoever the conqueror used to came in India, they used to first capture the small part of the Delhi. Then over a period of time, in that particular period, the ruler have captured the nearby the land of the India. You can say the nearby the land of the Delhi. Then later on, if we talk about the Khiljis and the Tughlaq, they used to capture the eastern side. We talk about the Bengal, then towards the Deccan side, or you can say the southern part of the India. Then later on, what we come to know that they earlier they were not accepting the queen. Yes, we talk about the Razia because yeah, after the death of his father, the Iltutmish, the Sultan Iltutmish, in which his one of his uncle used to said that the Razia is the eligible for this throne, and none of this brother is eligible for this throne. So after that, none of the humans, or you can say the none of the me, when they are not accepting they're not accepting Razia as their queen. If we talk about the Rudrama Devi, she is from the Warangal. The present day we can find this Warangal in the Andhra Pradesh. I already said that in the previous segment of the video that she is the only daughter of his father, where she has to offer each and everything. She has to do all the duties just like this son only, because if she is not take the part over the that at that time, then any of the outgo you can say any of the rulers who used to came from the outside of the India, he used to conquer the Varangal. Then later we come to know that in the period of the Tughlaqs and the Khiljis, how they used to give the you can say the rank, or you can say the promotion to their slaves in the administrative official work and the as the governor. So the slaves, if you talk about the Khilji, his barber, his cook, his gardener, his the servant who used to provide him the wine, so he promote them as the administrative official of the particular place, where they used to call it as the ikta. So the work is to collect the revenue, and for collecting the revenue they have to distribute to the soldiers, by which but from where they used to collect the revenue, they give the salary to their soldiers. Then later we come to know that who were the army commanders, they were given the position, or they were given the ranks of the governor, in which they have to also collect the revenue, and they have to measure the land, and they have to put the record that this much of the measurement of land is belong to this particular person. So all these things we have learned so far, how the slave turned the you can say the administrative official, or the slave turned into the military commander, you can say the iktas, the muktis. So far we have discussed all the things that how the slave become the you can say the chief, the chieftains. If we talk about the chieftains work is that they were the ruler of the small area, you can say the small village or the small town, where they used to collect the revenue, and they are the ruler of the particular area where they have their own soldiers, and whosoever the outsider, or you can say the conqueror, used to come over there, or you can say the outside the revolters, outside the conquerors, they used to come in their own town for the fight. So they used to take their soldiers for the fighting purpose, and they used to win over that, and whatever the duties they used to perform in the under the kingdom of this Tughlaq and the Khilji dynasty, that they used to offer them the revenue. So these are the points which we have discussed. Then we discussed about the Qutub Minar as well, how the first floor then make their, then the second floor, the third floor, over a period of time. Then after that they make the four gardens, then later on they make the number of the tombs and the masjid, where the people used to come over there for the worship, or they offer the prayer in the west direction. If you're living in India, so Makkah is in the west direction, then in that direction they used to offer the prayer. Then later on we come to know numbers of the things. So in this segment, what the points we have to cover, the first is the official of the Sultan Muhammad Tughlaq, then chieftains and their fortification, which we have already discussed in the second segment of the video. Then the Alauddin Khilji and the Muhammad Tughlaq difference. We see in this which dynasty on the which ruler what they had did and what the changes they used to we have saw in the Delhi. Then we talk about the Sultanate in the 15th in the 16th century. Then the orders and the peace of God, knights and the fruit sets. This all these points we're going to complete in this third segment of the video. So we start with the Chieftains and the fortification, which we have already discussed in the previous segment, where fortification themselves is in the mountain, rocky, uneven, and the rugged place, as well as in the bamboo groves, where the this Ivan Batuta, who used to came from the Morocco, which is in the Africa. So he is a traveler. He used to came in India. He used to live in the Rocky Mountain, where he used to made his food in the, you can say, in the bamboo stick. In the India, the bamboo is not a hollow, so it is big to. The several parts are so intertwined that even the finer cannot affect them. They are not, on the whole, very strong because the bamboos are very much strong. They do not catch the fire. The Chieftains live in this forest which serves them a rampart. Now the Chieftains they were used to live in the forest where none of the, you can say, the outsider ruler can capture them and they conquer their territory. Inside which they're the cattle and the crop. And inside this, what they do, the different of the you can say the farming and rearing the cattle. Later on, there is also the water for the dam within. They have the water for them within. So that is the rainwater. They used to conserve, or you can say that they used to do the rainwater harvesting, which collect there. Hence, they cannot stop except by the powerful armies who's entering this forest, cut down the bamboos with a special prepared instrument. Now, if you recall from the last chapter what we read about that, the Mongols, the Genghis Khan, they used to come from the Afghanistan. Then later on they become the Mughals. So the Mongols under the Genghis Khan invaded the Transyokia in the northeast Iran, that is in the 1219, and the Delhi Sultanate faced their onslaught soon after. Mongol attack on the Delhi Sultanate increased during the region of Alauddin Khilji and in the early years of the Muhammad Tughlaq. So they used to come in the period of, you can say, dynasty of Alauddin Khilji. The later on the early periods of the Muhammad Tughlaq, they forced the two rulers to mobilize the large standing army in Delhi. Now they forced these people to mobilize from this place, which posted a huge administrative challenge. Let's see how the two soldiers dealt with them. So this the difference we are going to see the what the Khilji did and what the Tughlaq did. So these are written over there. The Alauddin Khilji and the Muhammad Tughlaq. Delhi was attacked twice in 1299 and 1300 and 1302 to 1303 as a defensive measure. Alauddin Khilji raised a large standing army. Now he raised the large standing army. The people used to walk on the foot, so we used to call it as the large standing army, or the large, or you can say it in the other words, the foot soldier. Then if we talk about the Muhammad Tughlaq, the Sultanate was attacked in the early years of the Muhammad Tughlaq regime. The Mongol army was defeated. Now, in the period of the Muhammad Tughlaq, he defeated the Mongol in the first time. So, Muhammad Tughlaq was confident about the strength of his army. So, he was very much confident that I have the strongest army, and his resources was planned and attack on the Transyokian. So their resource and the plan used to attack on the Transyokian. He therefore raised a large standard. He also raised the large standard. So here we find the same. We can't find any of the difference in both of these two. Like earlier, the Alauddin Khilji was a defensive measure he used to take. He took the defensive measure here in the Muhammad Tughlaq period. What we see that he defeated the Mongol. Then now come again on the Alauddin Khilji. Alauddin constructed a new garrison town named Seri for the soldier, which we have already discussed that he made a fort in which only the army personnel, or you can say the soldier, used to live. Okay, whenever or you can say the emergency time, whosoever the outside the ruler came towards the Delhi, if they used to attack over there, so they can defeat that particular outside the army and they can protect their garrison town. So rather than the constructing a new garrison town, the oldest of the four city of the Delhi, that is Delhi Kuhan, was emptied of these residents and the soldier garrisoned there, the resident of the old city was sent to the new capital, that is of Daulatabad in the South Delhi. So the resident and the soldiers emptied that there. So they used to empty that particular fort, and the resident of the old city was sent to the Daulatabad. The Daulatabad is in the South Delhi. The soldier had to be fed. This was done through the produce collected as the tax from the lands between the Ganga and Yamuna. The tax was fixed at 50 percentage of the peasant. Now, in the Alauddin Khilji period, whatever the farmers they did the they did the cultivation, or you say it in other words, whatever the agriculture they did, 50% of the revenue they have to give to the this people in the period of Alauddin Khilji. And if you talk about the Muhammad Tughlaq, so produce from the same area was collected as the tax to feed the army. Now they used to collect the same thing to feed the army, but they meet the expense of maintaining such a large number of soldiers. Sultan levied additional tax. This coincidence with the famine in the area. Now, what had happened at that time? In the Muhammad Tughlaq period also, they used to collect the tax from the peasant and the farmer, but they have to feed the large army. So because of that, they have to suffer from the famine, because first they have to feed the army, and the second one, the additional tax was levied on these people, so they have to give the more tax and they have to feed the large army. So due to this, they have to suffer from the, or you can say, they have to see the condition of the famine in that area. Now, again in the Alauddin Khilji period, the soldier had to be paid. Alauddin chose to pay his soldiers' salary in cash rather than the iktas. Iktas where they used to give the lead, but here the Alauddin could want that they want to give the pay in the form of money rather than the iktas. The soldier would buy their supplies from the merchant in Delhi. So they used to buy the supplies from the merchant in the Delhi, and it was thus feared that the merchant would raise their price. So they have the fear that the ordinary people have the fear that it might that the merchant is going to raise the price. To stop this, Alauddin control the price of the good in Delhi. So he used to control all the price of the goods in the Delhi. Prices were carefully served by the officer and the merchant who did not sell all the prescribed rates by punished. Now, whosoever the merchant is there or whosoever the shopkeeper is there, if he do not sell by the prescribed price, so then the particular, you can say the merchant or the particular shopkeeper going to be punished by the Alauddin Khilji. Muhammad Tughlaq also paid the soldier the cash salary. So Muhammad Tughlaq also did the same thing, just like the Alauddin Khilji. He used to pay the salary in the form of rupees, but instead of controlling price, he used a token currency. So he used a token currency, somewhat like the present day paper currency, somewhat like they have the paper currency, but made out of the cheap metal. It is made out of the cheap metal, not gold and the silver. People in the 14th century did not trust this coin. They did not trust this coin. They were very smart. Yes, they are very smart. They saved the gold and silver coins and paid all the taxes to the state with this token currency. So they used to, the people used to preserve the gold and the silver coins, and they used to give the tax in the form of the token money. This cheap currency could also be counterfeited easily. So this cheap, you can say the currency was also counterfeited easily. So the people used to preserve the gold coins and the silver coins, and they used to give the tax in the form of the token currency. Then again we come to the Alauddin Khilji. The Alauddin administration measure were quite successful. Yes, it is true that it was quite successful. Chronically praise his reign for its cheap price and the efficient supply of the goods in the market. He is successful which showed the threat to the Mughal invention. So it's successful, you can say, which showed the threat of the Mughal invention. Muhammad Tughlaq administration measure were a failure. Now, number of the measures which is took by the Muhammad Tughlaq, that was the failures of that his campaign into the Kashmir was a disaster. When he started a campaign in the Kashmir, it was the disaster. He then gave up his plans to invade. Now he gave up. Now he didn't want to order the army that you go to the Transoxian and demanded his large army. So he said that you don't go towards there. Meanwhile, his administrative measures created the complication. Now it started the complication over there. They shifted the people to Daulabad was resented. Now from the capital city, they used to send to these people to the Daulabad in the South Delhi. This raising of the taxes and the famine in the Ganga Yamuna belt led to the widespread rebellion. Now the people who are dying with this starvation, they start rebel against the Muhammad Tughlaq, and finally the token currency has to be recalled. Now again they have to be recalled. Which currency? The token currency. So in the list of Muhammad Tughlaq failures, we sometimes forget that the first time the history of the Sultanate. Now the first time we see the how the Muhammad Tughlaq, because of the failure, he has not going to rule over a long period of time. So the Delhi's Sultanate planned a campaign to capture the Mughal territory. Now he made the plan to capture the Mughal territory, unlike the Alauddin defensive measure. So Muhammad Tughlaq measure were conceived as a part of military offensive against the Mongols. So later in the chapters you will read about the Mughals, that these are the Mongols who become later on they become the Mughals, and they used to take the descent of their fathers rather than their mothers. So the Sultan in the 5th and 15th and the 16th century. The next topic of this chapter, the Sultan in the 15th and the 16th centuries. Again, we can take a look on this table, that we find that they were the five dynasty. It starts from the Rajputana, then the early Turkish ruler, then the Khilji dynasty, the Tulgi dynasty, the Said dynasty, and the Lodi dynasty. But these two dynasties, especially if we talk about the three dynasties, not a two dynasty, three, Rajputana, the Khilji, and the Tughlaq, they used to rule over the Delhi over a long period of time. But if we talk about this, the Sayyid dynasty and the Lodi, they used to rule over the Delhi for not over a long period of time. They used to rule over the India, sorry, not India, the Delhi for the shorter period of the time. So you will notice that the Tughlaqs and the Sayyid Lodi dynasty ruled for the Delhi Agra until the 1526, but the Jaunpur, the Bengal, the Malwa, the Gujarat, and the Maharashtra, the entire South India has the independent ruler who established the flourished state and the prosperous capital. So in their kingdom, they made a flourished state and the prosperous kingdom, where we can say that their administrative system is very much good, their governance system is very much good, their agriculture, because the vegetation is very much good, the soldiers are very much good, their fortification, their forts, and in their kingdom each and everything was very much good, that they used to regulate their country or their state and the capital in a very good manner. So this was also the this period which saw the emergence of new ruling groups like the Afghans and the Rajput. So Afghan as the Mughals, or you can say the Mongols, and the Rajput, that were the Chauhans, and the other words you can say the Chamanas. Some of the states established in this period were small but the powerful and extremely well administered, that is Sher Shah Suri from 1540 to 1545 started his career as the manager of small territory of his uncle in the Bihar, and eventually challenged the defeat of Mughal Emperor Humayun. Babur, and the Babur's son is Humayun, and Akbar's father is the Humayun. So 1530 to 1540, 1555 to 1556, Sher Shah captured the Delhi and established its own dynasty. Although we call it as the Shuri dynasty, ruled for only the 15 years, just only for the 15 years he ruled over the Delhi. It introduced the administration that borrowed elements. He used to borrow the elements from the Alauddin Khilji and made them more efficient. So he used to cooperate the number of the, you can say, the policies which was made by the Alauddin Khilji. So they adopted all the policies, and it used to work in his period more efficiently. Sher Shah administration became the model followed by the great emperor Akbar. So Sher Shah model was adopted by the Akbar in the period of 1556 to 1605, which was considered the Mughal Empire. So if you talk about the Mughal Empire, it starts from the Babur, Humayun, Akbar, Jahangir, Shahjahan, and the Aurangzeb. All these people used to come over a period of time. They used to rule over India. So in the next chapter, we will learn about how the Mughal came in India, and how much the period they used to live in India, and they make the changes in the form of, you can say, the military, in the form of, you can say, the forts, in the form of the buildings, in the form of the governance, in the form of the administrative, in the form of the socially, economically, culturally, religionally, language wise, what changes they make, what diversity they see, what changes they made. All these things we are going to deal in the fourth chapter. So now the last topic of this chapter which remain is that three orders, the peace of the God, knights and the crusades. The idea of the three orders was the first formulated in the France in the early 11th century. So that the three orders which was first formulated in the France, they divide the society into three classes: those who prayed, those who fought, and those who tilled the land. This division of society and the three orders was supported by the church. It was supported by the church, the person who fought, the person who tilled the land, and the person who offered the prayer or who do the prayer to consolidate its dominant rule in the society. This helped the emergence of new warrior group called the Knights. Okay, Knights. The church patronized his group and used them as the propagate the ideas of the peace of God. So they use the ideas to propagate the peace of gods. The attempt was direct warrior away from the conflict among themselves and send them instead on the campaign against the Muslim who had captured the city of the Jerusalem. So Judge patronated this group and used them to propagate this idea to the peace of God. The attempt was to direct the warriors away from the conflict among themselves and send them instead on the campaign against the Muslim who had captured the city of the Jerusalem. This led to the serious campaign called crusade. So this was a serious campaign where they used to do the fight with the they used to fight with the Muslims. The campaign was to serve the God and the church completely altered the states of Kenites. Originally, the Kenites did not belong to the class of the normals. So, Kenites do not class of normals. They divided the three society, or you can say the three communities, or you, in the other words, you can say that they divided this three classes in the society. First state, second state, third state. In the first state, there were the clergy. In the second state, there were the nobility. And the third state, the people who are the businessmen, the merchant, the artisan, the farmers, or you can say the peasants, the marginal farmers. All the people used to come over there. So in that case, in the third estate, the people were the discriminated, and these communities did not belong to the class of the nobles, so they do not come in the, which I said, the second estate they used to come under the third estate. But by the end of the 11th century, the France and the century later in Germany, the humble origin of this warrior were forgotten. Now the people used to forget what this warrior had did for their country. By the 12th century, the nobles also wanted to be known as the knights. Now the noble, the second estate people want to know themselves as the knights, or you can say the reformers, by like which by which later on the whosoever the people were there, they can know generation by generation, yes, they did something for their country. So far in this chapter what we have discussed that over a period of time how many rulers who used to came in Delhi. If we starts from the the who we saw ever the starts from if we start from the first point of view, the Rajputanas. If we talk about the third and the fourth, the Alauddin Khilji and the Muhammad Tughlaq, these are the three dynasty which they used to rule over the Delhi for the longer period of time. And some of the ruler were there. There is Sayyid dynasty, and if we talk about the Lodhis dynasty, they used to conquer the Delhi for the shorter period of time, but they make the remarkable changes in this period that they make the good agriculture, they used to first what they did that, and the nearby the Ganga and the nearby the Yamuna, they used to cut the forest and they give the land to the peasant and farmers by which they can do the agriculture over there. And by which if we talk about in the period of the Alauddin, and if we talk about in the period of the Tughlaqs, they give the taxes to these people that if we talk about the Alauddin Khilji, so they used to give their grains, like whatever the cultivation they did. So for that they have to give the 50% to the their owners. And if we talk about the Tughlaq period, so they have to feed the large army. Apart from that, the number of the taxes which is levied on this farmer, so they have to give the tax to these people. So in this period, their people were died due to the famine, or you can say due to the starvation. So this start the rebellion. So we can say that with the fall of the Tughlaq dynasty have started that time. If he didn't do that, so number of the people can't do the rebellion, and they will follow the orders of the Muhammad Tughlaq, what they levied on them. So these are the things which we have seen, that the Alauddin Khilji is the successful warrior. Then we later we come to know the Sultan in the 15th and 16th century. So the Sher Shuri adopted the number of the, you can say, the initiative which is started by the Alauddin Khilji. So he adopted it and he used to regulate it in a more efficient way. Then the Sher Shuri, which he started the number of the plants and initiative is adopted by the Akbar. So he used to regulate it in his kingdom, the good administrative system, the governance system, then to measure the land, to collect the revenue, all these things he used to adopt it from the Sher Shuri, that what kind of work he did in his period. So all this thing he adopted by the Akbar and he used to do in his administrative work, or you can say in his period. So we can say that after the Sher Shuri, the Mughal have started their work, like starts from the Babur, then Humayun, then Akbar. Over the long period of time, they used to rule over the India in a very effective way, in a very good administrative way, and they used to govern the number of the parts of the country in a very good initiative way. So they just started the number of the initiative that they want to make this country as the prosperous in the socially, culturally, economically, and they want to introduce their religion as the best religion, that all the people can follow this religion. So there are the number of changes they make over the period of time. So far we have discussed all these things in chapter. The first thing is we have discussed about the official of Sultan Muhammad Tughlaq, how the slave become the administrative officer and the governor, then chieftains and the fortification, how the soldiers used to live in the fort for the safety purpose of the town. The Alauddin Khilji and the Muhammad Tughlaq difference. Most of them have the similarity, but in the end, that Muhammad Tughlaq failed and the Alauddin Khilji win. Then the Sultan in the 15th and the 16th century. So they have the different things that we talk about, the Sher Shuri, the Akbar, and what policy they adopted from the Alauddin Khilji, because Alauddin Khilji administrative and the governance system was very much nice. And later we talk about the three orders and the peace of God and creeds and the Crusaders. We have talked about the France. So all these points we have jotted down in this segment. I hope you like this video. Thank you.